Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Week 3 of Sports Talk on Our Time, a podcast that a good friend Frank Verdecchia on the left side of this screen decided we should do now that I'm retired with nothing better to do. Frank, former copy editor at the Pittsburgh Tribune Review, and I'm a retired guy with like I said, with nothing better to do but talk sports. And today, Frank, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, itching for a fight. I'm sick and tired of people saying the Steelers don't need TJ Watt. I'm sick and tired of people saying trade TJ Watt. Don't give him the money. When you got a special player like TJ Watt, you need to get him on your team. There's talk about Nick Herbig could handle it. Nick Herbig could handle it. Nothing against Nick Herbig, who's also with the Wisconsin. But he was a fourth round pick. Uh, Watt is a first round pick, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. Try to find a way to sign him. People are saying, well, it's okay if the Steelers go 5-12 because then they'll get a high draft pick. Guess what? And they need a quarterback next year. I'll give you that. They need a quarterback. But guess what, Frank? Dan Marino, 27. Brett Favre, 33. Drew Brees and Lamar Jackson, 32. They're all drafted late. How about Jack Ham? Or Jack Ham, 34. Mel Blount, 53. You can find good players. You don't have to tank.
Well, of course you can. Of course you can find good players, but quarterbacks. Steelers won what, 6
I
Super
just named
Bowls?
four.
But
I
I'm
just
just
named
talking.
four.
But the quarterback position is the hardest position to play on the field, without a doubt. Without a doubt, you got to be able to read a defense. You got to be able to make quick decisions. You cannot be afraid of someone knocking you out because you got an
That's
awful
all.
line.
That's all true. But you
Four,
have to worry
four
about
Super
that.
Bowls, 4 Super Bowls with the number one overall pick, and 2 with the 11th. Now, if you don't get the 11th pick in '04, you got J.P. Lossman, who's probably bouncing at some sawdust joint after like 2 or 3 years, and that's, you just need that. Like Mark Malone, 28th overall pick. Mark Malone was horrible. They took Bubby Brister. He was, yeah, okay. Neil O'Donnell got them to the Super Bowl, but threw the interceptions. Cordell in the second round. Cordell was a man ahead of his time. All right, So back then,
Brett Favre is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks
true.
of all time. A lot of teams pass on those guys. Drew Brees.
It's called luck too.
Brees won a Super Bowl, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, but it's called luck. It's also called luck. Matt Schaub was what, a third round pick, and he wasn't going to get
No,
you. He wasn't.
my point is, Frank, you don't want to lose. You want to every
Well,
season you want to win,
I,
and you try to go 12-5, not 5-12.
I agree
You
with
can't
that,
do
but
that.
I agree with that. But they have not won a playoff game since 2016, and I
And that's
think
why you
it's
keep
just
trying.
going to the playoffs and 10-7, 9-8, and then here we go. We're going to go play. They're going to go play, just say Baltimore. And they beat up Baltimore during the season. Playoffs roll around. Next thing you know, they lose 31-10. And Derrick Henry has 236 yards and 4 touchdowns because the defense didn't have it. Now that being said, TJ Watt. Now I
Are they
agree.
better
TJ,
team with or without TJ Watt?
let me talk to you about TJ Watt. TJ, I do. He is somebody I love to watch play every Sunday. You focus on him. When he splits through those two linemen, they're double teaming him almost every play and tackles a running back around the waist behind the line of scrimmage. It's a work of art to watch. But here's the thing: he wants more money than Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett signed that contract, 4 years, guaranteed 123.5 million. Now Watt's going to want 124 million guaranteed to say I'm better than him. Now you're the Steelers. That's 31 million a year on your cap. It's going to go against that cap hit. Now imagine he tears a pectoral muscle, bicep, hurts his knee. Now you're stuck with a guy who's 32 years old, maybe, and you're getting nothing for him. And there's so many other pieces. I think, I'm not saying, believe me, I want TJ Watt to retire a Steeler, but starting to try to look ahead a little bit. And I think I look at a guy like Herbig. Herbig had 3.5 sacks over the last eight games of the season. Watt had 5, and Herbig played nowhere near as many snaps. Watt had 5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Watt did the last 9 games of the season, and he had all zeros in the playoffs. And sometimes you might have to, you got to give something up to get something.
Well, I think that they're a better team with TJ Watt, and I don't think they're going to win a playoff game without TJ Watt. Now, that being said, you're right. They've never won a playoff game with TJ Watt, and that's a shame because, he's a great player and you need him to pressure the quarterback. If you trade Watt or you don't sign him and he sits out, 10 games or something, what's going to happen when Lamar Jackson throws for 350? And Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs throws for 404 touchdowns because he's sitting back in the pocket with nobody to pressure him. You need to pressure the quarterback.
Well, how do you know
Those
Nick? How do you know Nick Herbig can't pressure him? That's
well,
I mean that's
I
the
think
thing.
you don't know. You don't know, but there's a better chance that T.J.
Yeah,
Watt's going to be that guy over
but
Nick Herbig.
by the
Is
end
going to
of the
be that
season, though, he's showing signs that he's wearing down a little bit. It's the number, though. It's the number more than it is about wanting to get rid of him. 120. It's going to be at least 124 million guaranteed money for a guy who's going to be
It's all
31 in
monopoly money.
October.
They got a
But
lot of cap space.
but
They can figure
guaranteed
it out.
money. I mean, it could be like, well, it'd be nice if it was maybe 80 million guaranteed, but it's going to be. It has to be at least 124.
Well,
If
I
Miles
understand
Garrett's
it's a big ticket item, but if you want to play the game, you got to pay these guys, and he's a special
getting,
player. You're not paying a quarterback right now. You haven't played a
no,
quarterback since he's been
no,
retired, and you got to take advantage of these times. Next year, let's see what happens. If you trade Watt and first of all, you're not going to get a first round pick for Watt. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network
yeah.
was on internet today talking about how they're not going to get a first round pick for Watt, and there was a trade proposed to New England. Did you see that?
I did not see
Uh,
that.
New England, Jabril Peppers, a safety,
Yeah.
a second round pick next year, and a third round pick in 2027 for Watt.
Oh, I'd take
Would
that
you
in a
do that?
second. In a
Oh, no
heartbeat. In a
way! No
heartbeat, I
way!
would take that. I would take what's the McLaren from the Washington. If you
To
get
Commanders.
yeah, if you took him and say they got him and a second round pick, you got to
No way.
consider doing it. They don't have another receiver
But
right now.
that trade makes no sense from the Commanders' point of view. They're not going to give you one of the NFL's best wide receivers
No.
and the second round pick
Oh,
for Watt. It's
absolutely
never
not.
going to
You're right,
happen.
but it has to be. But I mean,
Look,
if
I
you can get
mentioned with the Patriots pick is the trade. The trade I mentioned is one that's more realistic, but to me, it's not good enough. It's just not.
okay,
If you get a first round pick for Watt, somebody calls up Omar Khan and says, "Okay, Omar, we'll give you our first round pick for Watt right now." I think I might do it if you have good feeling
yeah.
that it's going to be a high pick. You didn't want
What
it
if
to be in the 30s,
what if it was a second round pick and a second and 27? And
two second round picks for
yeah,
Watt?
2 second round picks for Watt. That's something you got to really consider if because I mean,
Well, okay.
31 million. You're looking at 31 million in guaranteed money over
All
a
right,
4 year
Frank, here's
span.
what you do. You take that
Yeah.
paperwork that says you have two second round picks in 2026 and 2027. You put it on the line of scrimmage next
Okay.
next season, and you see if that paperwork, that piece of paper, can
Yeah.
get you 16
I'm,
sacks.
I'm telling you, Nick Herbig can get you 10 at least.
You play for now,
Yeah.
Frank. You play
All
for
right.
now.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
continue on. Go ahead.
Yep. Well, what are we talking about now? Pitt
Pitt
football, Jerry.
football. Yeah, how about that?
You're the former longtime legendary beat writer, Jerry, that they should name a chair after there. So tell me about
Well,
you know
I just saw the Walter Camp football American team came out the
yeah,
other day, and I was interested to note that Kyle Lewis and Desmond Reed, were chosen as first team All Americans,
yeah,
which is I think that makes sense because they had great seasons last year. Reed is first team All American as an all purpose running
yeah.
back, not as a scrimmage running back. But the thing that really caught my eye was 11 guys were chosen to the Walter Camp All ACC team. And they do go all the way down to the fourth team. So you
Yeah.
guys like B.J. Williams, Sean Fitzsimmons, Javon McIntyre,
Well,
who are
it's like
fourth
guys like
teamers.
us are on the fifth team, Jerry. So I mean, by the time you get to the fourth team, it's
Well, I know, but they have Jimmy Scott, defensive end on the
yeah,
second team. If Jimmy Scott, he's probably a guy that a lot of Pitt fans, casual Pitt fans don't know that much about. But
yeah,
if he has a good enough season, he can be a second team All ACC player. Pitt can have a
sure,
good season; they really can.
yeah,
But the guy that's going to make the biggest splash of the year, let's mark this down. What's today? July 7th,
yeah,
2025. Mark this down. Wide receiver Kenny Johnson is going to have a breakout season. Maybe it won't be a Tyler Boyd type season, but he has the kind of skills that Tyler Boyd brought to the table, and he's to pick the third team All
uh,
ACC. I think
I
Kenny
agree with that.
Johnson going to
I
have a
agree
big
with that
season.
wholeheartedly. I just now he can stretch a defense. He can get out. He gets out in space. It's his turn. Pitt has one really good receiver every year, and he's put his dues in, and he played very well last year. And it's his turn. It's his turn to be the number one guy. But the guy I'm thinking about is like Des Reed. They're 5'8", 175 pounds. That Cincinnati game last year, he was unbelievable. I think he had at least 300 combined yards, a couple touchdowns, and he was just getting murdered. And when did he leave the game? 2 or 3 times, came back in, and he
Right.
was key in why they won. I mean, that's
No, a
that's
lot of
another
times,
thing.
Pat Narduzzi exaggerates, but he called Desmond Reed the toughest guy on the team.
I
And for a
believe
guy
that.
who's 5'7",
Yeah,
5'8". That's something
Yep.
to be said. And he has great speed, great
Yep.
breakaway speed, and you're getting him to come back, getting Kyle Lewis to come back, getting Eli Holstein to come back. That shows that there's
That,
something going on there as far as NIL is
that
concerned. They're paying some of these guys. They're not going to keep them all. I think they just lost
yeah.
a blue chip offensive lineman from Texas the other day, high school kid
And
that
Syracuse got a
from
five-star receiver.
Maryland.
Well, with this Syracuse five-star receiver got a 3-year contract for like almost 5 million. I read. I didn't know
Yeah.
they had contracts now, but
Well,
that's
yeah. They definitely have
you know.
contracts. They
Well,
they sign contracts and they get certain amounts of money.
well, here's something I will say. This is what I love most about Narduzzi. He develops players. Kyle Lewis was a 3-star guy. He had minimal Power Four offers, and here's a kid who's a returning first team All American. You look at his stats. He runs his 40 times 4.65, which that's not super, but it's pretty good for an outside linebacker. And he
Good
tackles.
point.
His hands are good. He's just around the ball constantly. Like he's like a Servassier Dennis kind of guy. Even though Dennis played in the middle, but Dennis was everywhere around
And,
the field.
and Dennis wasn't a guy who was highly regarded coming out of high
No.
school, and he's playing in the NFL right now. Same with Patrick Jones. He wasn't
Yes.
a great defensive lineman coming out of high school. He's still in the NFL.
Yeah.
Uh, Brian O'Neill, offensive lineman for the Vikings. He signed a big contract a couple years ago, and he was a tight end coming out of high school in a small school in Delaware.
Yeah.
I think a private school in Delaware, and he ended up being one of the best offensive linemen in recent Pitt history. So I give Narduzzi credit and his coaching staff credit for developing these guys.
Oh, absolutely. Finding talent is his number one quality to me. Finding talent that's hidden and turning it into really good football players. Now, game day, it leads to a few text messages to you, a little bit irritated, but as far as putting these kids together, I mean, he's not like Penn State. He just can't say, "Hey, look at my university," and say, "Why don't you come
You're
play
thinking
for me?"
about that Penn State game in what was it 2017 when they were
Oh,
on the 1 yard line and he tried to kick a field goal
2019, yeah. Oh
or
my God,
2019, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. There's a lot of episodes. There's a lot of chapters in that Narduzzi book there that you could talk about.
But here he is, 11th year
Yeah,
is head coach at Pitt, and they won the conference championship. Lately this is a big year for him. They haven't been
yeah,
that good lately. 3-9 2 years ago, and they finished last year on a 6-game losing streak. It's a big year for Pat Narduzzi and a big year for Pitt,
and
and it's
with
going to be
every
very
year,
interesting.
with him, just like Capel, it's going to get a lot easier to get rid of you as you get closer to 2030. Right
Right,
now
the
they're pretty
buyout gets a
safe.
little lower,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think he'd have to really tank this
yeah.
year for him not to come back in
And
2026.
with
I
11
don't think
guys
he
on,
will.
it seems like he's got players that this looks like a nice 6-6 team or a 7-5 team right now. But
At least it should there should be that at least, and if they
yeah,
get some breaks, 8-4, it'd be fun if they go into the Notre Dame game. I think it's week 10 with a
yeah,
decent record. Home game against Notre Dame. The schedule's not that difficult this year. They go to West Virginia, but they're other than that in Notre Dame, late in the season.
yeah,
But and they do play Miami, but I don't believe they played North Carolina this coming season. And
yeah,
the North Carolina might struggle a little bit, but the schedule's it's the ACC. It's doable. It's
yeah,
winnable. Almost every game, if they're not favored, they're going to be right. They should be right in every game, and they shouldn't get blown out by anybody. So
exactly. Yeah, they're not in the
I
SEC. They're not in the Big Ten where there's games that you're not going to win. This time,
right.
there's still some teams that like that, but the ACC is meant for Pitt. It just seems to me,
Every,
of
every
all
game
teams.
they should be in every
Yes,
game. They're not going to win every game. They're going to lose 3 or 4 almost every year. Yeah, unless they have a quarterback like Kenny Pickett. But I
yeah,
think this season is going to be very interesting to watch because you got the quarterback and you got the linebacker who's going to make a lot of plays in the other team's backfield.
my favorite is the athletic department pushing that Duquesne game. First time they played Duquesne since like 19, I don't know, 41 or something. That's
39, I think it was
oh boy,
36 in the 30s. Yeah.
come get your tickets. Pitt's playing Duquesne. All right.
Well, you know what? They have to push it, and I give them credit.
Yeah,
It's not the kind of game that people are going to circle on their calendars unless you're a Duquesne fan. But you
true.
gotta you have to promote your program, and I think Pitt and EJ Borghetti and those guys have done a great job, promoting the
Yeah.
program in recent years. Even a guy like Todd Graham, who only stuck around for about 5 minutes, was a great promoter of the program when he wasn't thinking about his next job.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got that promoted. You got to do it at Pitt. But hey, let's talk about the Pirates a little bit here. And Paul Skeens, another guy, five innings, 10 strikeouts, no runs yesterday. He's got a 1.94 ERA, and I believe he's got 4 wins on the season. He's given up 25 earned runs all season, and he's
Oh, am
got
I
4
glad you
wins.
did your homework, Frank? Thank you for
Yes,
doing your homework. I love it.
yeah. So I mean, if I'm him, I want to scream right now.
Well, yeah, I'm sure maybe he thinks it, but he's also a young guy, and he knows there's a lot can change in his career over the next couple of years. He's going to be in Pittsburgh for at least 2 more seasons, I think.
Yeah,
26 and 27, and then you get to 28. I think 29 might be the last one that don't have any control over him anymore. And then they may think about trading him if they're not winning. And if they are winning, what they think they'd ever pay him, even if they're winning?
oh
Probably not, because
no,
he's a guy. You talk about TJ Watt getting guaranteed money. This guy is going to get so much guaranteed money, he's not going to know how to spend it.
oh, and
You know,
here's the difference. I was talking to somebody about this, and like Nutting today would not have done what the Pirates did in the early '90s. He'd have traded Bonds, he'd have traded Bonilla, he'd have traded all those guys before they
right?
were up, and then maybe you get the one playoff instead of three. Where Skeens is, Skeens is not going to play all through all his arbitration years because the
No,
number for 1 year is going to be just absurd.
yeah,
And
just like Garrett Cole got traded. But the thing is,
yeah,
you got to trade him for somebody decent.
yeah,
I was looking at some of the trades that Ben Cherington's made recently. Jameson Taillon was traded for 3 guys who ended up being DFA'd. And Tyon's
yeah,
still pitching pretty well for the Cubs.
yeah,
Cherington has not made good trades at the deadline to replace the guys who's trying to dump. He's trying to dump salaries, but you're not getting anything for them. That's the trade deadline this year is going to be very interesting because there's several guys on expiring contracts.
yeah,
They're going to get enough in return. They're going to get a bat, 2 bats. They probably need two
yeah.
bats,
Is
not
Mitch
just one.
Keller their best piece?
I believe so. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
I
mean,
think
he's 3-10, but he's a lot better than 3-10. It's just he's playing for the wrong team. That
I think but the other team that you deal with is not going to want to give up. So you have to give
no,
somebody up. So you have to work at it and work at it. And I think Ben Cherington is working at it. But I think if he wants to trade these guys, if somebody wants them, a team like I don't know the Yankees, they want Mitch Keller or they want David Bednar. You make them pay. And if they
and
don't want to pay, then you keep them. What the heck,
nobody does. Nobody does now. I remember '89 on opening day, the Pirates traded Felix Fermin for Jay Bell.
There you go.
A
You got to
guy
do something.
one of the best shortstops they've had in the last 5 decades.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's hard to
I
get
think that's,
people.
those are the kind of trades you need to make, and I really think that it's going to be very difficult. Charrington is not going to be working from a position of strength.
Yeah,
This losing streak they're on right now. They haven't scored any runs since last Wednesday. It just makes you think that they're going to get this knock this thing down to the studs come the trading deadline, and then what
they might.
happens in August and September? They're talking about trading Isaiah Falefa, and I think I've talked about this on a podcast
Yeah,
before. He's on an expiring contract, but who plays shortstop?
yeah.
Jared Triolo. You're going to move Nick Gonzalez to shortstop, put Triolo at second base. That doesn't do you any good. And what about next season? Forget about this year. If you trade
Yeah.
Falefa, what do you do next season for a shortstop?
Well,
You
you
know,
go
is,
find one.
is,
You'll do what they
is
always do. You go find a cheap one, is what they'll do.
how
And
about Connor Griffin? You think
well,
he'd
he's
be
got
20?
he got a ways the way. I mean, when you get to the show, that's totally different than hitting that minor league pitching. Those
I
it's a little
understand
more
that. Yeah,
difficult. That,
I
but
understand that. But
well, Jerry, let me just say, let me finish our Pirates with this. I was so excited when I found out O'Neill Cruz throw a ball 105 miles an hour from the outfield.
sarcasm, right, Frank? I
Oh my
get it.
God! It
Sarcasm.
blew
Okay.
my mind. It just blew my mind away. I thought, my God, this guy, get him $100 million a year, 105 miles per. I remember when I was a kid and the Reds were winning and Davey Concepcion was playing short and he'd bounce it to Dan Dreesen off the carpet there. Amazing how good he was, and he didn't throw 105 miles an hour over there. So
Well,
there
if
are
you throw
so many
105,
stats that everything regarding that guy is so like, oh, he hits the ball this hard, the trajectory, this or that. It's like he strikes out every third time he's up, he strikes out.
you don't get
And
extra points for miles per hour off the bat or out of your hand.
that's
And
right.
the guy's barely hitting 200. He
Yeah.
has 15 home runs. And so I don't think you
Yeah.
can trade him
It's
because
like
if you
yeah.
trade him, who's going to hit home runs for you? Brian Reynolds is
Yeah,
having a bad season. He has 10.
exactly.
McCutcheon's with 38, 39 years old. Is he going to play next year? He's their best hitter. Now
Yeah.
that's what's the scary part about the Pirates is McCutcheon is their best hitter,
Well,
and
he's a
can he get?
$5 million a year guy. That's easy. Nutting loves that.
And he still has a quick bat. He can still play the
Yep.
game, and there's no reason he couldn't play the game next year too. But you want to get a little more production, home run production for some of these guys,
Yeah.
because that's Earl Weaver used to talk about the 3-run homer was the biggest weapon in baseball. Pirates don't hit 3-run homers very
No, they
seldom.
don't. They don't hit a lot of home runs at all.
No, that's true. That's true.
Strike out a lot.
I see we're up to 20 minutes, Frank. Are
Yeah.
you ready for dinner?
Yeah, I think I'm about ready. So, and there's going to be no canopy. There's no guy here with a white jacket on. At your retirement party, a guy came up to me, Jerry, with a white jacket on, and asked me if I wanted canopy, and I told him it
Did
was.
he? Did he?
I
Did
said
he
that was
kiss?
the Ritz crack with chopped liver, and he just
Did he kiss
turned
you on
away.
the cheek? Did he kiss
No,
you on the cheek?
he
If
turned
he
away.
did, if he did, you would have ran for your car.
That's right, kiss of death there, man. So,
Tonight's just going to be Jersey Mike's night.
oh,
We watched the grandkids today, so there's really no time to
okay,
fix a dinner. So
very nice.
last night we put ribs in a slow cooker. Really
Oh,
good.
geez, life after reporting, Jerry is treating you very well.
Oh, I know it's great, and the best part of it is every Monday we do this podcast, and
That's right,
and
absolutely.
and I'm sure the fans are clamoring for it. They can't wait for this edition to come out, and I guess it'll be up somewhere on YouTube and Facebook sometime by the time the Pirate game starts tonight.
Sure, absolutely. So, all right then, Jerry, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Frank, good talking to you. Be good.
You too.